Hi y'all, I'm making elderberry syrup and I'm going to show you how I do it. Turn your camera. Alright, so we have, don't mind my dirty pots over here, I'm going to clean them a little bit. So we have filtered or distilled water, and it is, I'm bringing it to a boil. I filled it probably about half to 3/4 full. See, it's like a finger's worth down. But I mean, it's really kind of whatever you want to, however much you want to make. And I'm planning on filling, this will probably fill about 3 pints. So let me get the next step going here. Turn down my heat. And I've got about a cup of dried elderberries. They can be fresh. But I would use more if you're going to use fresh. But a cup of elderberries. And basically, we're just going to stir that sucker. Do you see the water already changing color? Because they are very potent. There's a lot in here. Kind of see the water already changing color. You don't necessarily need it to boil, so I'm going to turn down my heat a little bit more and put it on medium. But you just basically want this to simmer. I don't know, about 20-ish minutes at minimum. Doesn't even always take that long. But yeah, you see the color changing in the water right there. And the beautiful thing about these elderberries is they were picked locally. And they were given to a friend of mine who's like, I don't know what to do with them. So we had an entire, probably 3 pounds worth. And we picked all of them off the stems. And I freeze dried them. And I set them aside here in my jar. And then I put the others in a Mylar bag, so we don't need it to boil. I'm going to turn it down even more. This is going to go for about 20 minutes. I'll come back. Alright, we're still at a simmer. It hasn't been quite 20 minutes yet, but that's okay, because I have additives that I put into mine, and it makes it taste better, and it also makes it a little bit more cold fighting, like cold and flu symptom fighting. So we're going to do ground ginger. That's from the humidity of the pot. I do a heaping tablespoon of ginger. And we do a heaping teaspoon of turmeric. And a heaping tablespoon, these are all tablespoons, I apologize, I think I said teaspoons before, it's tablespoons. Heaping tablespoon of Ceylon cinnamon. And then we're going to stir it all in so it incorporates and dissolves. All those are also the ingredients in my natural antibiotic. And then once this is, do you see how the darkness? See how nice and dark that is? Once this is all heated and steeped long enough, you can put a lid on it so you don't lose some of this evaporation. And after everything's all mixed together, so we got some clumping here, it'll all dissolve in there. And then afterwards, when it cools some more, after we take it off the heat, after it's steeped long enough, we're going to let it cool off to the side, off the heat. I let it cool down a lot, quite a bit, because when you're putting your raw organic honey in, the heat will kill some of the good enzymes in it. So that goes in last after everything's pretty much cooled. And then you just put it into your jars. And I use jars that I'm reusing. They have been washed and sterilized, and I can sterilize them even more in this heat. But they've been washed and sterilized. They're just old pasta jars. But here we go. That's just literally that simple. We still just have two more steps if you count putting them into the jars. I'll come back when this is ready to put the honey in. Let me also just say how wonderful this smells. It smells incredible. The elderberry scent. I don't really smell the turmeric or the ginger or the cinnamon. I do smell the elderberry though, and it is divine. You see how nice and thick that color is getting? Stirring in healthy intentions. Don't mind my dirty sink. We're baking and doing dishes. Alright, strainer, another pot. This is about ready to go. And it's all combined together. You can see the elderberry well, you can sort of see it. It doesn't have as much, they don't have as much color to them. Do you see the certain ones floating on the top? They don't have as much color to them anymore because it's all, look at how dark that is. It's all in the water now. Let's go ahead and strain the sucker. Just gonna strain it into another pot because it's another big vessel I have. I did it over the sink because, well, some of them coming out. See all see how much less color there is? And look at all these that are left over in here. Let me get my spoon, which is colored by the turmeric. It'll wash off eventually. But all this still has lots of juice in it. So you don't want to lose any. And these can be set aside for adding to a pie later on if you want to. But you want to scrape out or squeeze out all the juice. You can do this into a cheesecloth or a tea towel or something like that. This just works really well for me. And you just squeeze it out as much as you possibly can. I also just leave it here to strain for a while. Alright, I have squeezed out all the juice that I possibly can. These are just barely damp. And I'm actually going to give it to my chickens because it'll be good for their immune systems too. And we're going to, see, I had fudge that I finally am freeze drying because it didn't get finished and I don't want it to start going bad before it's finished. So I don't like to waste food if I don't have to. Look at that. Look at that beautiful color. Look at that beautiful color. Now it's just got to sit here and cool until it's time for the honey. I'll be back. Okay, it is at 90 degrees, like 91, but it's cool enough. You try to do around 90 degrees or less. And by the time I get it in there, it'll probably be cool enough. Yeah. See, it's trying to drop. For 3/4 of a cup because it's not a lot in there in the pot. 2 different kinds of honey. One's thicker than the other. One's local, one's from Thrive Market. It is delicious, honey. That was the gloppy one. I love the honey so much. And then we're just gonna get all the honey out of here and stir it in, and then put it into the jars. And then we're just gonna stir it until all the honey dissolves. Immunity boosting. This will also help fight off colds and flus because of that honey, turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger. Because those 4 ingredients make the antibiotic, the homemade antibiotic, and I'll tag that up at the top of what goes into that and the measurements for that, because I've made a video on that one as well. It definitely helps. My daughter and I specifically use it when we don't feel well or something, or anything. I mean, it can be when we're actually sick. We take it and it literally goes away. You take it like you would take an antibiotic, a pharmaceutical antibiotic. You take it like probably a little more often. So you do like a tablespoon every like 2 hours. And for this elderberry syrup, the honey is what makes it actual syrup. See, it's nice and it's a lot thicker now. It'll have that sweetness to it with all that extra immunity boosting properties. And we'll put it into the jars that you see in the background. And we usually take about a shot of it at a time, or like a half a shot. Like, let me show you. Do like a shot glass, like a half a shot glass worth is what we do of the elderberry syrup. And it tastes pretty good, and it helps us stay healthy. So that is our elderberry syrup, and I do sell it. It's usually $15 for a jar about this size, and it lasts for 3 to 4 months before it starts going bad. You put it in the fridge. I usually make like 2 or 3 jars for each of us. This is the second time I've made it this year. For the cold and flu season that we're in. But it's so easy, and I have a ton of elderberries. So I make it as often as we need it, or if somebody orders it. Thanks for sticking around and making some elderberry syrup with me. Take care. Here we go. It made 3 whole containers and 1 3/4 of the way full. And there's your elderberry syrup. The date, the label, and my business.